Opposition leader Mark Golding has declared that he will not back down from his position that Jamaica must become a republic at the same time it accepts the Caribbean Court of Justice (CCJ) as its final appellate court. Mr. Golding reaffirmed his position on Tuesday during a media briefing held at Gordon House. But the opposition leader suggests exploring other areas of constitutional reform outside of statehood. Mahiri Stewart tells us more.
Not while I am opposition leader. Mark Golding says he will not divorce the issue of the Caribbean Court of Justice from the country's Republican push.
Any chance that the opposition will divorce the two?
No, not while I'm leader of the opposition. That will not happen. I believe that the first order of business is to secure access to justice for the people of Jamaica, who have been deprived of it for over nearly 200 years. You know, since the court, their final court, was across the Atlantic Ocean in a foreign capital that has nothing to do with us. And we believe that it's vital that we ensure that the government allows full decolonization now.
The opposition PNP withdrew from the Constitutional Reform Committee earlier this year after party leader Mark Golding criticized Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness for not stating his position on the country's final appellate court. But with the Prime Minister now stating his preference for a local final court, Mr. Golding says his party remains unmoved in its demands. He's suggesting the political leaders move to other areas of potential consensus outside the current impasse.
The last thing I heard from the Prime Minister, which took me somewhat by surprise, was in the debate when he said that they were in favor of establishing a final court domestically here in Jamaica, which, for reasons that I probably won't go into now, we don't think is a viable approach at this time. And so, you know, I'm saying to the Prime Minister, listen, you know what our position is. It's a position that we have articulated forcefully for some time. And, you know, let us see what other areas of reform are possible so we can at least achieve a more accountable government, for example, a more effective parliament, and that sort of thing. You know, and let's get some forward momentum going on things that matter to the wider public if we can't agree on the decolonization issues up front.
Prime Minister Holness has invited Mr. Golding to have one-on-one dialogue on constitutional reform. But Mr. Golding says as things stand, there seems to be little room for progress on the key issues of the Republic and the final court. He's left the door open for other discussions to take place when he sits with the Prime Minister.
But yes, we would like to have initiating discussions. I would like to have an initiating discussion with the Prime Minister on the approach to constitutional reform, form of consultation that will take place, and how we will avoid some of the pitfalls and errors that were made the last time around. And to see what areas of consensus can be agreed so that we can at least make some progress, even if we can't make progress on every issue. And I would be more than willing, and in fact, in light of what is happening now, we will have to raise issues to do with how the parliament's made at those talks, if and when they take place.
Mahiri Stewart for Nationwide News.
Meanwhile, Mr. Golding has also rejected the suggestion that the matter of the final court may go to an indicative referendum. He's holding firm to the belief that the Parliament is the appropriate mechanism for changing Jamaica's final appellate court. This is despite Minister Chuck suggesting that if the opposition remains unwilling to compromise, the government may have to put the matter to the Jamaican people in a non-binding referendum.
We believe that the Constitution should be applied, and the Privy Council, which is our final court presently, has already indicated what is the procedure for establishing a new final court, and that procedure does not involve a referendum, and so we don't feel it's proper to put that matter to the people in a referendum. And there's no former country of the British Empire that has departed from the Privy Council as their final court via a referendum procedure for good reason. And we know that the politicization of that process would be inevitable, and it's not considered to be appropriate to subject your final court to that kind of highly partisan discussion and debate that would necessarily arise in a referendum procedure.
Mark Golding, opposition leader. You're listening to Nationwide News at 5.
The Commission has 3 new directors. Craig Beresford is the new executive director. Ronif Lawrence replaces Keisha Prince Kamika as Director of Corruption Prosecution, while Joeth Jones is the new Director of Information and Complaints. She replaces Craig Beresford in that role. She previously served as the Commission's Manager of Declarations. But as we hear in this report from Dana Davey, at least one of the appointments could prove controversial.
The appointments were made by the Governor-General at King's House on Wednesday. They follow sustained questions from civil society and subsequent news of a standoff between the Office of the Governor-General and the Integrity Commission about the proper procedure to be used. It's understood the recommendations had been made from as far back as July. The Integrity Commission Act mandates that the Governor-General shall appoint the Commission's directors on the advice of the 5 commissioners. But the Governor-General objected, insisting that the Integrity Commission had not followed the prior administrative precedent. With the Integrity Commission backing down, Sir Patrick has made the appointments. The most controversial among the 3 new hires is likely to be Ranif Lawrence. He becomes the Commission's top prosecutor. Lawrence's prior acting appointment drew the ire of senior government lawmakers over his reported close relationship with PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell. Dr. Campbell is reportedly a longtime friend of Mr. Lawrence. He's alleged to have served as best man at Lawrence's wedding. So incensed were the government legislators that they wrote to the chairman of the Integrity Commission, Carol Lawrence Beswick, regarding the matter. While the lawmakers claimed at the time they were not questioning Lawrence's professional qualifications, they did point out that the close relationship between the 2 men raised questions of fairness and justice. At the time, retired Justice Beswick dismissed the complaint from the senior lawmakers. She insisted that evidence of improper conduct was required for her to act. Under the Integrity Commission Act, the Director of Corruption Prosecution is responsible for making decisions as to whether to initiate criminal prosecutions based on referrals from the Commission's Director of Investigations. His decisions can only be reviewed by the Director of Public Prosecutions. Dana Davey for Nationwide News.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
The United Nations has allocated $4 million to Haiti to prepare for Tropical Storm Melissa. The UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says the funds are for relief in the event of flooding, landslides, and power outages. It says humanitarian partners are also working with the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Authority to step up preparedness efforts across other countries. The UN says the funds will support more than 100,000 vulnerable people in Haiti before the storm hits. The funds will also allow humanitarian partners to provide early warning messages, evacuation assistance, cash transfers, emergency shelter management, and water, sanitation, and hygiene kits.
The U.S. has announced new sanctions targeting Russia's 2 largest oil companies in an effort to pressure Moscow into negotiating a peace deal with Ukraine. The announcement came 1 day after U.S. President Donald Trump announced a planned meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin would be shelved indefinitely. Earlier Wednesday, Russia unleashed an intense bombardment on Ukraine that killed at least 7 people, including children. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced the sanctions, saying they were needed due to what he says is Putin's refusal to end this senseless war. Speaking alongside Mark Rutte in the Oval Office on Wednesday, President Trump was asked about the timing of the new sanctions. He said they would help convince Russia to stop fighting, calling the sanctions package tremendous.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica